For section 5, you will see that there is also 3 activities and then a summative assessment task 5. So for section 5, activity 1, that activity will be focusing on telephone etiquette. The reason this has been included in your communication module is it is very important how you communicate on the telephone, especially when you are dealing with parents that are bringing their children to your ECD center. So we need to make sure that when we are dealing with the different individuals on the telephone, that we deal with them in a professional way. Then we are looking at planning a formal letter. You will see that the example that you have been given is a little bit different to what you have seen in the previous activities that you have done in the communication module. So when we look at a formal business letter, which is what you are going to be doing for activity 2, we are looking at a different format. So please make sure that you are aware of the different format in activity 2, and when you write this letter requesting a donation or requesting funding for your ECD center, please make sure that you have all of the criteria that has been identified. So you have the address, you have the date of the letter, you have who you are addressing the letter to, you have the reason for the letter, then your letter contains an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, and then you have the correct closing. So please make sure that when you do the letter requesting a donation or funding, that you follow the business format. Remember that the business format, and if you are writing a letter in your personal capacity, is a little bit different, because where the address is situated on the letter is a little bit different, but that has been provided for you in your different activities. So please make sure that you look at it and make sure that you are using the correct format, either for a business letter or a personal letter. But for activity 2 in section 5, you are doing a business letter. Then for activity 3, you are creating a poster for an event that you would host at your ECD center. So for this activity, you need to make sure firstly that you answer the 6 questions that are asked, and after you have answered those 6 questions, you create a poster advertising an event at your center. Remember, when we're looking at a poster, look at a A4 size and make sure that you're using bright colors, a font or writing that stands out, that attracts people's attention, and make sure that you have included all of the information that the people who are coming to the event will need to know, so that if they need to bring money with them or if they need to register to come to the event, make sure that all of that information is contained on the poster. So that is what you need to do for activity 3. And then lastly, you need to do summative assessment task 5. For summative assessment task 5, you are going to be writing your own book on child care tips. So you are writing this for adults to read on what they can do to make sure that they are dealing with different elements that they need to know for dealing with children. So for example, how you communicate differently with small children, how you manage multilingualism. So if we're looking at multilingualism, it is different languages. So if your child is isiXhosa speaking and that child is going to an English medium school, the child will need to know how to communicate in 2 different languages. So you can give parents tips on how to make sure that your child can communicate in different languages. And then you are going to choose a topic from the list. So be it discipline, be it cultural differences, you need to identify a topic that you are going to write on. So your book needs to have 3 different topics. It needs to be communicating with small children, it needs to be managing multilingualism, and then there needs to be a topic of your choice from the list provided. So for this, you need to do planning. So you will need to do some type of mind map. You need to do research for content for your book. Then you need to do a draft version of your book where you plan how you will put your book together. You will then also need to plan the layout of your pages. So making sure that your book has a cover, making sure your book has a back page, making sure your book has a table of contents, making sure that it has individual pages for the different content, and that you also have a page for references if people have been interviewed, or if you got your information from the early inspiration training material, or if you got your information from Google. Wherever you got your information for the book, you need to make sure that it is contained on your reference page. So you need to do a draft version first of the book. Then you need to proofread and edit, so make any changes, do it in a different color pen. Please do not use red or green, as that's used by your facilitators and assessors and moderators that are going to be marking your book. But when you do editing, please make sure that you use a different color so that we can see how the editing has been done. And then lastly, you need to do a final version of the book that is going to be going to your parents. So you need to make sure that this book is professional, that there's no mistakes, that all the spelling has been checked. So look at the criteria that has been set in the module for the specific summative assessment task, and make sure that all of the elements that they are asking for is included. So you will see that in the module you have been given some guidelines and tips on what should be in your book. But remember that there is 4 different things that we are looking for in this summative assessment task. We are looking at the content that is contained in the book. We are looking at the structure. We are looking at the language, so that means we're looking at the spelling and the grammar, the punctuation, all of that, we're looking at it. And we're looking at the layout of your book. Does the layout make sense? Does it flow? If the parent reads the book, does it make sense? So those are all of the things that you need to take into account when you are doing the planning for your book, is that all of the criteria that has been set is met. So please take a look at the assessment criteria for the book and make sure that content, structure, language, and the layout, that all of that you have in your book. And please remember, if you need any assistance whatsoever, to please contact your facilitator.